I'm Megan Barker. Welcome to Jammin' and Jammies. We are sitting down with some of our favorite music creators and industry leaders. We're going to find out how they got where they are and get some valuable insights into the music world. You can watch the interviews online or tune into the podcast. Just check out jamminandjammies.com for all the details. Today, we are sitting down with my friend Ryan Cunningham. Ryan has worn a few hats in his time here in Nashville, and he's currently A&R of country music at OneRPM. So we have a lot to dive into. Let's welcome him. Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm so good. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Really looking forward to it.
This is going to be so much fun. So do you want to just start at the beginning? Tell everyone like where you're from and were you always into music?
Yeah, I grew up in a mountain town in North Carolina. I always tell people Asheville because no one knows where Candler actually is. Maybe some people out there do. But yeah, so grew up in Asheville, North Carolina. And yeah, always grew up loving music. I was a drummer growing up. And so that kind of fueled a little bit of it. And then went to some great concerts whenever I was younger that really kind of drove it home. And my grandmother had like this really cool record collection that had every Kenny Rogers album you could ever imagine. So I was always kind of around music, but yeah, I always loved it.
What were some of those concerts that you saw when you were a kid?
Yeah, my first concert, I always tell people this is a crazy concert. So it was the lineup for the day was Sleep at the Wheel, Dixie Chicks, Jody Messina, Clint Black, Tim McGraw, and George Strait. So it was a George Strait concert, but all those, and it was this crazy experience because it was in Clemson's football stadium down in South Carolina, and we were on the field. It was me and my mom, and she had won the tickets somehow. I forget how she won them, but yeah, so we went, and it was an incredible concert, and it was just such a crazy thing to see at such a young age. It was awesome.
That's so cool. Package shows are the best. What was my first concert? Mine was Dave Matthews. I think that's cool. But okay, so tell us, when did you move to Nashville, and do you remember like the song or the artist that made you kind of want to be in music?
Yeah, I've been in Nashville probably 7 or 8 years now. It feels like yesterday and it feels like a million years all at the same time. So
Right.
yeah, probably 7 or 8 years. As far as what got me into music, that first concert that I went to really was a big push for it. But also I just so many memories growing up, or driving in the car and listening to the radio and listening to a bunch of like 90s country at the time, or like 70s or 80s music and things like that. So it was really just kind of a combination of just being fortunate to have people in my life that listen to the radio while they were in the car, and not listening to something else, or not having it be silent, and then also getting the opportunities to go to some of those concerts at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay, since you've been here, you've worn a lot of different hats. You've kind of done a lot of different things. Let's talk about it. I have a note right here. You worked in social media and publicity, artist management. You worked with up and coming songwriters at NSAI, and now you're in A&R. I want to dive into all of these experiences, but it's a lot. So can we just start with like social media and publicity? What was that about, and how important is it for songwriters, do you think, to be present on social media?
Yeah, I think social media is obviously a big part of culture in general, but it's especially important in the music industry. I think people see it more so as being important for artists, which it certainly is. As an artist or artist writer, obviously, social media is a big part of what you're doing as far as marketing music and trying to get it out there. I don't think necessarily songwriters think about it as much, or at least in my experience of talking to them, they're always asking why they would need it or anything like that. I think really it depends on what you're doing as a songwriter. If you're trying to get some writers rounds and things like that, obviously social media, even if you're not pushing the songs that you're writing, but just showing that you are out playing other rounds, that can help you book other rounds, or help you set up co-writes if other people are finding you on social media and seeing that you are an active part of the community. It's just a great way to, and it doesn't have to be a forced thing. You always want to do something that feels organic to you, especially as a songwriter, someone that is a songwriter, not an artist. You're not having to put out the stuff that an artist would necessarily, but you can definitely use it to your advantage to be able to, like I said, set up co-writes, or get in some of those writers rounds and writers festivals and things like that.
I almost feel like even as a songwriter, if you want people to know that you're in Nashville, you kind of just have to be on social media, at least to some degree nowadays. Otherwise, people probably don't even know that you're here because everything is social media. Yeah.
You want to show that you're a part of the songwriting community. That, I mean, that's mainly the goal that you want to do. And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything that's like, oh, this is, this is the song that I wrote today or anything like that. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be occasionally like, oh, I'm playing this round, or here's a photo of me doing this, and then everything else can be whatever you want it to be. You just want to make sure that whatever it is, it's authentic to you and feels, natural.
Yeah, and pictures of your dogs and cats, because we all love to see that.
Absolutely. We all want to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. If all else fails. Okay. Well, when you were working with, all kinds of different levels of songwriters at NSAI, but a lot of young people to town. What was maybe a common mistake that you see people make when they first get here?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a few, I think, but one of the things I think that is not necessarily a mistake, but that people maybe don't understand as they're trying to think about moving here, especially as being a songwriter, is they come to town and they think, oh well, I'll go and I'll get a job, that's a 9 to 5, so I can pay my bills, and then I'll write at night or I'll write on the weekends. And that's just honestly not how a lot of the writing happens in Nashville, and as you obviously know, a lot of the writing happens, during the day. It's happening between Monday at 10 a.m. and Friday at lunch. Like that's when a lot of the writes are happening. So I'm definitely not saying like, if you move here, don't get a job and don't pay your bills. Obviously, you have to pay your bills in some way. I just think a lot of people don't realize when those rides are happening and how much they're missing out on if they're not at least able to maybe have a day or two during the week where they can schedule some rides. I think it's great that I hear a lot of artists and artist writers and songwriters in general just get, pick up like weekend jobs so they can write during the week and leave their schedule open. So I just think that's one thing that's not necessarily a mistake. Like I said, it's just something that is not thought of really, or they simply don't know, because it's hard to know until you get here how it's actually working, unless you're able to connect with, like somebody in NSAI or somebody within the industry that can actually tell you, hey, this is how things are actually working. This is what's actually happening. I would say the other thing that comes to mind whenever you ask that question is I think that a lot of songwriters feel like, if I could just, I'm just starting out, I've got these couple of songs, I'm going to really try to go write with whoever this top songwriter is. And that's what's going to make me like a better song. It's going to make me, have all these hits and stuff like that. And that's simply not how it works. You've got to find that group of people that you can kind of rise up with. And of course, people are going to fall off, from that group, and you're going to add new co-writers, which you should add new co-writers. But you want to find writers that you feel like are heading in the same direction you are, heading in the direction that you want to go, rise up with them. And then that's why you see a lot of writers that all are writing together get signed around the same time, because they've all been writing together. They're all taking meetings around the same time. So I think those are probably two, like I said, one of them is not really a mistake, but two things that come to mind with that question.
Oh my gosh, my working from home, my cat literally just jumped up on the desk. She's sitting right here.
It's okay. I think we're all used to that,
we're just gonna leave it in. That happened once before and I edited it out. Now I'm just gonna leave it in. Those are both amazing points. And I think NSAI and people like you it's just so valuable. You can't really teach these things. I hope that this can give people insight, but these are just, I think, things that you just learn along the way too. And also I was gonna say, I was even guilty of thinking, well, I'll write my great songs. I'll keep writing, but I'll write my great songs when I get in the room with Shane McAnally. And I had to realize, like, you need to write great songs to get in the room with Shane McAnally. Do you know what I mean? And then one day, if you get your shot, you better be able to hold your own once you get in there. So practice now.
Absolutely. I get, I didn't say I, especially, I get a lot of questions about if they should hold back titles or if they should hold back, those great ideas. And people, first of all, anything that I say in this time together is somebody else is going to have a different opinion. So take it for what it's worth. But
yeah, sure.
I always told people that, you should write the best song and the best thing that you can that day, because you don't know what doors that's going to open up for you. You don't know which write is going to open the door to write with somebody else. But also it could be, one of those great songs that get you an opportunity to do something else. And if everyone's holding back their best stuff, then you're going to that room, then what are you really writing that day? You're not really getting anything that's going to be great or that's going to move the needle for anybody and that anybody's going to be excited about. So you've kind of just wasted wasted time. You've wasted a co-write. So I'm sure a million other people have different opinions on that, but I would say always try to write the best song that you can. And don't feel like you have to hold back, like you said, like, oh, I'm going to hold my best ideas or my best songs for Shane McAnally or Ashley Gorley or any of those, top writers. You've got to write up to that point. You want to be able to write those great ideas to be able to get in those rooms eventually.
Absolutely. And I feel like we could talk all day about whether or not to post your original songs on TikTok and stuff like that. People do steal from each other, but I just don't think you gotta worry about that when you first get here, and you're getting your feet wet. You gotta just get yourself out there. So that sounds like you agree with that. Just get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to prove that you are, able to hang in those rooms and able to write those songs to get into the next room and the next room. And plus it's going to build your relationships, because if you're writing consistently, bad ideas and not bringing your best ideas, then people are going to assume that you just don't have, the great ideas. So they're not going to want to write with you as much, which can hurt you even more. So
absolutely. And you'll always have another idea. I've thought that before. I'm like, I have this great idea and I'm saving it and it didn't work out great. You're going to have more ideas. So, okay, let's talk about management, because this is another hat that you've worn. So when is a young artist ready for management, and what exactly should someone expect from their first management deal or whatever?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. I always tell artists, you should find a manager, in my opinion, when you have something to manage. You want to get to a point where you are doing all of these things and you've got all this momentum. Maybe you're playing a bunch of shows and you're writing a bunch of songs and you're recording and you're doing all this, and you get to a point where you actually can't handle all of it together anymore. To where you've got enough for somebody to come in and actually manage what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And really from that first manager, a big thing that people discount, because a lot of people, I think a lot of artists make the mistake, we talked a little bit about some songwriting mistakes. I think on the artist side, people make the mistake as they're starting out of thinking, oh, I'm a new artist and I really, haven't done a ton, but I've got this. And so I want a manager, let me go to like Red Light, or let me go to, some major management company, and try to get their attention and try to get a manager. And then they get discouraged because, a lot of times they just they're not at that point yet. They're not ready for that step yet. So a lot of artists, I think, discount in the beginning, finding somebody who knows what they're doing, but also is just passionate about what you're doing as an artist, and really gets who you are as an artist. Because as an artist, it's hard to figure out who you are and what your sound is, and what that brand is going to be. So once you found that, or even as you're developing that, you want someone that kind of understands the vision.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. It's so funny just to see everything all the time.
I made you lose your train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. But yeah, you want somebody that's going to be passionate about it, that is going to be on board and sees the vision, can see where you are, but can also see where you want to go and where they feel like they can help you get there. And they might not be, the most experienced manager at the time, but as long as they're, putting in the work and doing the right things and willing to grow where they need to grow, then sometimes it's okay to find those managers that would be able to do that. I mean, that's honestly, the first artist that I ever managed. I had worked in other parts of the industry. I had been an A&R at a label that was doing sort of 360 deals where they were kind of managing some of the artists as well. So I had some experience as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But the first artist that I managed, on my own, like just me, I mean, there was no real reason for her to take me on as her manager, other than the fact that I did have experience in these other areas and understood enough about what needed to happen, but was also just passionate about, who she was as an artist, who she was as a songwriter. And so that's kind of how I got my start in management, and then built my skills with her, and then was able to transition that and move on to managing other artists. So you know.
That's fascinating that you encourage people to take a chance maybe on a newer manager. It's a lot like what you were just saying about songwriting, is like you don't necessarily need to jump in with somebody who is, at the top level of what they do. You got to find your crew and rise up with them. I think that's great insight. And do you think that there is value though to somebody like cold calling and emailing, introducing themselves to management, or do you think management finds them?
I think it can certainly happen both ways. What
Sure.
what I always say with any email like that, whether you're an artist reaching out to a manager or whether you're a songwriter reaching out to a publisher, um, it's much more beneficial for you to reach out and worry about building the relationship versus
Yeah.
worry about, look at me, look what I'm writing, look what I'm doing. Here's this, can you please sign me or can you please help me? Because that relationship is a lot of times going to open opportunities for that. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's not, maybe you're building a relationship with a manager, maybe they can't take you on, but maybe they know somebody else that would be able to, at the time, to be able to connect you with other people
Absolutely.
or connect you with other writers, other artists. So I think it is good to be looking and have an idea of what you want in a manager. That's another big thing too. You have to know what you're looking for in a manager. They're not all going to be the same. They're not all going to have the same skill set necessarily. So understand what you want in a manager, and if you're a songwriter, understand what you want in a publisher is a big thing that a lot of people don't think about. But
I'm gonna have to throw her out.
that's perfectly fine.
At least you got through that thought. Oh my gosh. She's
Um,
never done this.
she just likes me.
I think she does like you. She's, oh my gosh, trouble. Okay. My goodness, that's never happened. That's hilarious. But I think you got your point out, and it's well, and so there's no harm in reaching out and being proactive, but maybe don't be so pushy. Don't write somebody and say, "Hey, I'm looking for a booking agent. Sign me." It's not really how it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's okay to reach out. It's how you do it. And
Absolutely.
just understanding that, especially if you're in Nashville, Nashville is very much a relationship based town. So, the way you go about building those relationships can lead to whether that does become a good, strong relationship for you, or whether it's just an email that ends up, not being
Yeah,
answered. Uh,
exactly. Which there's a lot of those too, but that's okay.
there are a lot of those. That's okay. I mean, even on our side, being in the business side of the industry, there's a lot of emails that go unanswered too. So it's you just can't take it personally. It's just you
Yeah.
gotta roll with it and move on, and
It's
keep doing what you're doing.
It's comforting that you send out emails that don't get answered too, though, on your side of it. I see, guys, you heard it here first. It's not just us.
Yeah. Hopefully it's not just my emails that aren't getting answered. Hopefully there's some other industry people that aren't getting answered too. But
It's just you. Everyone in town's like, oh gosh, it's Ryan.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was a great segue into my next question, because you're A&R now of country music at OneRPM. Is that your official title? Can you take
Yeah.
us into what your job is? What do you do every day?
Yeah, so a big part of my day is, looking for artists, also just meeting with artists, managers, meeting with other labels, meeting with publishing companies, and really just trying to find artists that we're excited about to be able to sign and, bring on, and to be able to help really, OneRPM, really what we're trying to do is find artists that we can kind of throw some fuel into the fire of what
Yeah.
they're doing, and help them grow, help them build a greater audience, really, in a lot of ways. So yeah, a lot of my day is listening through music. It's meetings with a lot of different people, whether it's artists, managers, or anyone in that realm. And yeah, that's the majority of what's happening.
How do these new artists find you? I mean, are they cold calling you and introducing themselves? Is it management? Is it attorneys? How are you just scoping out Spotify or TikTok? I'd love to know, how do these new artists find you?
Yeah, it's a combination of all that, I would say. I mean, there are certainly artists that will reach out themselves. There's managers, attorneys, there's publishers, there's labels sometimes that need a distributor for their artists, that kind of thing. And so all of those are certainly happening where they're reaching out. And then it is a lot of me looking through Spotify, or looking through, Apple Music, or, looking through YouTube or TikTok, or any of those platforms, really, where artists are and where they're putting out content and putting out music. Trying to keep track
Yeah.
of all of them, really,
There's
which
so many now.
is a lot.
Yeah.
But they're all great tools to be able to discover, new artists, and try
Yeah.
to see, what's working, see what we would be excited about, and see who we think we can help.
I'd love to get your opinion on this because I feel like there's kind of two different takes on it. So the whole TikTok thing, everyone was so excited. In 2020, 2021, people were blowing up, getting record deals. We've seen it time and time again the last year or two. There's people, Priscilla Block was on Ellen this week. It's crazy to watch all these people that we know blowing up. So my question is, I guess, is I've interviewed a few people that are on the industry side, and they seem to think TikTok's great, but it's not going to last forever. And in fact, a lot of people are tired of hearing that they blew up on TikTok, and that story is kind of played out. So how important is maybe TikTok to OneRPM? Can you talk about that at all? Like, is that important when you're looking at an artist?
Yeah, I would say, I guess I want to comment on the story aspect of it
Please,
first.
yeah.
And the fact that I think that, obviously, towards the beginning of especially labels signing people from TikTok, whenever they were doing that and they were able to take those songs to radio, obviously that was a unique story for a while of, oh,
Right.
we found this artist, on TikTok, and we're taking them to the radio and all this stuff. But then pretty quickly, I think it got to a point where, you have a label coming and saying, we've signed this artist on TikTok, and the program directors at the radio stations are saying, great, we've got 8 other artists that are being picked for us right now that have the same story.
Right.
What else do you have? And some of those artists, probably didn't have too much of another story to be able to add to it,
Right.
but other ones did. So I think, really, as far as its importance to OneRPM, like, it is, something like, if an artist pops up on like my TikTok or something like that, and I'm able to, see some of their content, if it's something that I feel like I'm interested in, then a lot of times I'll go to another platform to be able to see what is happening with them, and what the rest of their music is actually like, and stuff like that. So I think it is a discovery tool in a lot of ways, but
Yeah.
I think what you're seeing the difference is now, more so, is that a lot of people are trying to see if fans are transitioning from seeing that artist on TikTok to going to stream their music, or to going to a live show. And that's kind of becoming a little more important than maybe what it was whenever you were seeing a lot of people get signed from just TikTok, which is not to say that any of those artists didn't build, a great fan base that was
Right.
going to stream them. I just think it's probably more so how people are using it today is they might find somebody there, but they're definitely going and checking out all the other things they have going on to
Yeah.
see if is it just, they've created this great TikTok channel, or do they have this other music with it to be able to back it up, and to be able to, that you could actually, put on the road and people would buy tickets to it, and that kind of thing.
I think you said it best. It's a great discovery tool. It's got to be hard to distinguish between something. I don't envy people in your position, something that has got a lot of attention right now, and then does it have longevity? So interesting. We'll see how it all plays out. But nonetheless, a great discovery tool. I'm going off of my script now. Sorry, but the CMA Fest, like independent artist application went up this week, and when you look through it, it's a little daunting. I mean, it's a very short form, but they want to know, how many monthly Spotify listeners do you have? What is your following like on even Twitter still, which, are people still on Twitter? But Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, I don't know. But I feel like it could be a little daunting for these new people that are to town. I managed to get on, though, 2 years after being here, and I don't have the biggest following in the world. So I don't really know if there's a question in there. I guess I'm just thinking out loud at you, but I guess it's just a lot for independent artists to balance now.
Yeah, there's a lot that you have to have going on, which, and part of the reason also that I said during the management question that you want to wait till you have something to manage, because there's obviously a lot that you could just
Right.
have, with social media wise, or streaming and things like that. You want to have that because you want them to have something to manage, and I completely just lost my thought. I can feel it happening.
We can edit it out in post.
I could, yeah, just we'll take care of that in post. But I do not remember what my thought was going to be. I completely apologize. But
Shoot.
essentially, I don't know. I lost it
I
completely.
literally keep a pen and a paper to jot down like the gist of my thought while you're talking, so that doesn't happen to me because it happens all
Yeah,
the time.
I lost
But
it completely, guys. Sorry.
basically, there's a lot to. Oh, you were talking about how like when you
Oh,
management.
I got it back. Yeah. So essentially, the reason you want to wait till you have something managed is because it's not just the music that's able to get you,
Right.
across and able to get you a deal or able to get you further in your career. Obviously you have to have great songs and you want to have great songs and you have to sound great and all of that. But that is honestly now kind of become sort of, the bare minimum. Like you have to have all these other things going on. So once you get to a point where you have all those other things, then you can have a manager come in and, throw a little more fuel on that fire again and try to push it even further. So like you're saying with this application for CMA Fest, I haven't looked at it to see what the criteria is on it, but obviously their hope in checking those metrics is to see, do you have fans that if you're promoting it, people are going to come and show up and see you
Absolutely.
play. But to your point, if you're an artist that's starting out, you might have or even have been doing it for a while, but maybe don't have as big numbers as some of these other people. Your music might be incredible. It might be way better than
Yeah.
what some of the other artists that are going to get to play those stages are going to be. But it's kind
Yeah.
of, you have to have that full package.
So hopefully it's a mixed bag of, just all kinds of incredible talent in this town. So hopefully it's a mixed bag of people with big followings and then maybe take a chance on the people with smaller followings, but just incredible music. So hopefully it's a little bit of everything. Okay, before I lose my train of thought, I wanted to ask real quick too. This just popped in my head. Somebody who's in A&R now, um, what percentage of songs that artists cut are outside cuts these days?
um I mean, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say it's pretty low.
It's pretty low. Yeah.
There you see right now, you see a lot of artists writing a lot of the songs, obviously, or if they are taking outside cuts, in my experience of what I've seen, it's usually coming from somebody within their camp a lot of
Sure.
times.
Yeah.
So you can kind of count that as them writing it because it's someone that they know. So
Yeah.
if you take that group of the artist that's writing it, or they're getting it directly from like their producer or somebody
Yeah.
directly, yeah, that leaves a limited number of outside cuts. Now there are artists that are taking outside songs and that will take outside songs. If, like Kenny Chesney still cuts a lot of outside stuff to my knowledge. Tim
Yeah.
McGraw would be another one. I know Cole Swindell writes a lot, but there are some great songs that he's released that have been outside cuts, that have been pitched to him. And there's definitely some artists that are willing to take the best song, whatever that is, whether they wrote it or whether it was pitched. But it is becoming a smaller
Yeah.
percentage, of artists that are taking outside songs, which again is why as a writer, as someone who's a writer, if you're a pure writer and you're only writing, meaning pure writer is meaning you're not an artist
Right.
with being a writer, then you have to put yourself in position to be able to write with artists, or to be able to write in a situation where maybe that song is able to be pitched. But even then, your best bet is to try to find some artists that you really believe in, and write as many great songs with them as you can.
Yeah.
And then as that artist grows, hopefully they continue to write with you and they continue to blow up. And then the songs that they're cutting and releasing are, your songs that you've written with them. And then that leads to more opportunities to write with other artists or to get a publishing deal if that's your goal, or any of those scenarios. And there's a couple of great instances of that happening, in the past. But
Yeah.
really it's just about finding artists that you believe in and write as many great songs with them as you can.
Those relationships, man, you just gotta keep watering them.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to come at this from another angle. I've been pounding you with artist and songwriter questions and how do we get in the door. But a lot of our viewers want to be like you. They want to be in the A&R seat or something like that. So how would someone get to a position like yours?
Yeah, I think especially if you're someone that is, first I'll say, if you're someone that's in college, you should do the opposite of what I did and take as many internships as you possibly can. Try out I always say, especially, if you're at like Belmont or MTSU, um, the access that those students have to the industry to be able to take internships here in Nashville is just
Yeah.
unparalleled. Especially Belmont, I think has a great opportunity to do that. So, but the reason I say take as many internships as you can is because whenever you're at that stage of trying to figure out, what you want to do, you might think that you love management or you would love booking, and then you go to do an internship with it and you really realize that you hate it, that you don't like it at all. So you want to take as many internships as you can, in my opinion, whenever you're at that point in your career of trying to figure out what you want to do and you're trying to build it. I only did one internship and it was at Walt Disney World. So that's why I say do the opposite of what I did.
Sounds fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience, but so I would do that at that point. And then once you're in the industry, you get that first job, whatever it is, coordinator position, assistant position, whatever you come in as,
Yeah.
try to make the most of it. Bloom where you're planted has always been something that's been a great thing that I've heard a lot of people say. So
Love that.
try to make the most of it, and then also learn as much as you can still. Don't think, oh, I got this position and now I'm done learning. I'm out of school. I'm done learning. Even I've been fortunate enough and lucky enough to be in the music industry for almost 10 years now, and I'm still trying to learn, things every day, and
Right.
still trying to find new ways of doing things, trying to learn from other people, finding some mentors within the industry is always great, of being able to connect with them, even on the business side, um, to be able to just learn from their experiences because they've already been through a lot of
Right.
what you're going to try to do in the industry. So that would be something I would encourage you to do. And then, again, it comes back to relationships, especially on the business side, having those relationships. And there's great organizations. Obviously, I'm on the board of an organization called Solid, so I'm a little biased, but I would say Solid's a great way um, to meet a lot of other people within the industry and to meet people across the entire industry, and to be able to connect, and have people that are trying to do a common thing as you. But, organizations like that can do a lot for you personally and professionally. So it's a great thing to be able to continue to just build your network, build your relationships, and just grow within the community, really. I don't know if that really answered your question that well,
Absolutely. The
but
the key sounds like networking, just like on the creative side, really.
building those relationships and just try to figure out what you enjoy. I have done a lot of different things in the industry, in my career, not with the internships, but just in my career. And there's been things that I've enjoyed more than others. And but I think if you look at my career, it's all revolved around similar things. It's revolved around songs. It's revolved around finding and developing artists and finding and developing songwriters. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of been the thread that has
Yeah.
been throughout all of it, even if it's been different titles or different companies and different
Yeah.
types of companies. But that's really the main parts that I enjoy of it. So find the part that you're passionate about, and then just kind of do your best, bloom where you're planted, and keep learning, keep growing.
Bloom where you're planted. I've never heard that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. What is next for you? What is your dream? What's the end goal for you, if there is one?
Yeah. I mean, right now, obviously, I'm very new in my role here at OneRPM. So, um, trying to continue to grow within OneRPM and continue to help them, build their roster, find great artists for us to be able to work with and stuff like that. So that's kind of obviously the immediate goal for the next, few years or so.
Right.
Um, Beyond that, we'll see. I've always really wanted to own a company that was management and publishing, because I think that's really a great space to be in.
Yeah.
And I of course love working with artists and artist writers and songwriters in general. So so that's always been something that I've had in my mind to do as the long-term goal, but I think a little ways away from that. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm always shocked and blessed and fortunate to still get to be doing this. And
Yeah.
I was talking with somebody the other day. I was like, I can't believe, we actually are able to do this for a living, to be in this industry and just be around music all day. And it's, it's really great.
I think it's important to be grateful. So I've always thought you had the best spirit and the best attitude, and it's contagious. And I'm excited to see what you're going to do next. Okay. Couple more questions.
Yeah.
Aside from the internship thing, is there anything else that you wish you'd known when you first got to Nashville?
When I first got to Nashville, I think I would have wanted to, I wish I would have understood that, it takes a little bit of patience to to be in Nashville and to be in the music industry in general, especially in Nashville. I will say there's a reason they call it a hurry up and wait town, because it can have its own pace. And so if you're comparing, yourself to other people that are in town, whether you're on the business side of the industry or whether you're on the creative side, as a songwriter or artist, it can feel like, you're not doing enough, or why isn't this happening? And it can get a little frustrating at times. So just understanding, have a little bit of patience and grace with yourself to understand, like, you're running your own race, and no one's journey in this is the same. So, don't get discouraged or upset. If you're seeing other people around you that are doing things that you feel like you should be, it's perfectly fine. That doesn't take away from what you're going to do or what you're able to do. So I think that's one thing I would have liked to have understood whenever I moved here.
It's the frustrating and beautiful part of Nashville is that no two stories are the same. So it's awesome because that means anything can happen, but it's frustrating because you have no idea how to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, the industry in general, like it's not like becoming a doctor or becoming a lawyer, where
Right.
you do these certain steps and you will become a doctor. You do these certain steps and you will become a lawyer. Like,
No way.
there's nothing like that. So you can try it like somebody else did it and maybe it'll work, but
No
it's not going to work
guarantees.
exactly the same.
No, not at all. Okay. Can you think of like the best or the worst piece of advice someone's ever given you? Bloom where you planted is good advice.
Yeah, Blue Marie Planet's pretty good. I think the best advice I've ever heard, it wasn't directly given to me, but the best advice I've ever heard, I heard Bobby Braddock while I was at NSAI said this, and I think he got it from Ray Charles. I think Ray Charles like said it to him, or he heard it from Ray Charles one time or something. But essentially it was to think of the music industry as like a wave, a sine wave, whatever you want to call it. Think of the music industry as a wave, and then what you want to do is be a straight line. And the reason for that is that most people in their career try to chase the wave, right? They try to chase it, and so they're always kind of behind it. But if you can think of your career as that straight line, then eventually it's going to hit you at certain points. Now it might go away from you at certain points too, but it's going to hit you as you're coming through. So I think that's probably some of the best advice that I've heard as far as it pertains to this specific industry.
Yeah. So do what you do. Don't change. Don't chase fads or whatever. Just do what you do and be consistent.
Yeah, don't chase it. Be consistent with who you are. Obviously, you can continue to grow, and
Sure.
without chasing it, you can continue to grow and evolve. But as long as you're steady and consistent, and you're doing what you need to do, then eventually it'll hit you at some point. You'll get to have your moments in there.
That's so inspiring. Okay, and that actually leads me perfectly to my last question, which is, it's just been a really rough couple years. I'm sure we both know people that went home, rightfully so. You want to be near family during these crazy times. But what would you say to somebody who maybe has been here for a few years and they just don't feel like they have anything going on? And you never know when something great is going to happen. But what would you say to somebody who's maybe thinking of throwing in the towel?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there are a lot of people probably at that point, or have been at that point recently, or maybe feeling like they're getting to that point soon. I would say always try to remember, why you got into it. Why did you want to become a songwriter? Why did you want to become an artist? Remember that sort of passion, and remember that, like, I think it was Harlan Howard that used to tell people, like, no one asked for you to be here. No one asked for you come to Nashville or to come to the music industry and try to be, a writer or an artist. But there's a reason you did it. You at one point had a passion and would have absolutely killed to be in the spot where you're at now. So I think just remembering that perspective, and then once you're able to sort of see that and realize it, then you've got to push through. You've got to keep. If you're a writer, you got to keep writing those songs. You got to keep developing as a writer. If you're an artist, you've got to keep trying to book those shows, trying to play, writers rounds, play as much as you can, develop your voice, develop your show, and keep pushing through. It can seem daunting. There's a lot of times where you're doing it and you feel like, probably feel like, oh, no one's paying attention. This isn't happening. But the work that you're putting in is eventually going to open up some door that's going to take off. And if you can stick with it, even on the creative side, I think there was a great time that in Solid we had Rusty Gaston come and talk to us, and he opened it up some way by saying, basically, I'm going to butcher it, but basically look at the person, on both sides of you, say hey to both of them, and then say goodbye to both of them, because chances of everyone staying in the industry for that long is pretty slim. But his message with that was usually the people that stick with it and again can be consistent and stay in it are the ones that you find that are successful. It's not, a lot of times, yes, they have to have some talent to be able to stay in it, and they have to have the work ethic to be able to do it. But it's the ones that are pushing through those times where, they might feel like they want to quit, but they're pushing through and sticking with it, that end up going on to being successful, because it's just that next thing that happened for them that ended up breaking.
Yeah. You just don't know. I mean, I can't tell you how many times personally I went to a show or I went to a meeting or did something and I met somebody that opened a door and I never could have predicted it would have led to that. You know what I mean? It's just a wild town and a wild industry full of surprises, good and, Yeah,
it is just craziness, but it's also amazing and wonderful at the same time.
And rewarding. Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough for ending on a beautiful, bright note. Thank you, Rusty Gaston, also, because that's gold.
That was not me. That was all Rusty. So
right.
I'm sure I butchered it in there. He probably said it way more eloquently than I did. But
it's great. He's so inspiring, and so are you. I can't wait to see what this journey leads to, and we'll have to catch up again in the future and see what's up. But thank you for taking the time to lend us some insight and inspiration.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really have enjoyed it. And I'm always a big fan of yours. So thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much. Okay. Well, we'll catch up again soon. Thanks, Ryan.
All right. Thanks, Megan.